Welcome to Insight Builder channel. Introducing Composio tools, Agentic LLMs, API Gateway, part 3 of multi-part series. How to make Composio tools and connect them with LLMs. This is what we are going to see in this video, and let us break down the steps that we are going to go through. We will concentrate on difference between an action and a trigger. We will explain it. We will be executing a tool directly, and then we will be writing the custom tools and calling it. This is what we will be looking in this discussion. Just to revise the block diagram, the Composio is a gateway. It's a gateway in the internet which can connect two things: your agents with the applications, right? These applications can be any services, and these agents can be from any of the LLMs with any of the tools. Also, the Composio gateway has its own way to a collection of tools, and it has got its own authentication process, right? So just take a look at my earlier videos where you can get more details on how these things work. Our concentration is primarily going on getting the tools designed this time. Sorry about the disturbance. We will be using the Python root still, and what we are going to do is in the app interaction area. So in this area we will be getting a new tool, and we will be handling the tool call, and we will check the output. We will also look at the local tools and the tools with authentication. So both of these things we will look into this. So let us now go into the code. Fine. Here you are actually seeing the way in which we can execute a tool directly. If you have seen my earlier videos, you would have seen that Composio has a tool set client with which you can connect with the Composio API gateway. So this line number 4 does that, the Composio tool set. After you connect with the API gateway, that is the Composio's API gateway, then you can get the varieties of tools available in that gateway. We are going to work with one of the tools called as file open tool, and another thing that we are going to work is the file create tool or file tool create file. So these are the two things that we are going to work with, right? So in order to actually understand these things, there are two main components that you need to understand. First thing is the action. Action is any kind of function that you can do inside an application. I will repeat it again. Action is any kind of function or activity that you can do in an application. Let us take a simple application, that is our file system. So file system that you work with has lots of functions. It can show you the files, it can open file, it can create file, right? So these are all varieties of functions that it can do. All these functions can be converted into actions, and it can be assigned to a particular tool inside the Composio toolset. That's what it has happened here. Now let me pause it for a moment. If you go back to your Composio dashboard, so if you are in the documents, if you click on get your API key, it will open your dashboard, and inside the dashboard you can click on the tools, and under the tools there are varieties of tools, and they are categorized into various types. Among them, the thing that I wanted you to look at this is the local. So these local tools are very interesting tools. So let us take the file tool. The file tool has many actions to it. You can see the actions here. So you can change this also if you want. So you can make it into triggers, but for files it's mainly actions. Now if you go to any of the, let us take create file. So if you click on this open, you will see there is a details about the name, the action name, and the code that it gets used for actually executing this action, and what you exactly need to provide for this action to work. So there is a natural language execution, and also there is a separate parameters that you can give and execute. right? This is how the tools are internally seen. This is how the display of the tools are, the actions are. When it comes to the tool, here the file tool is the file system. The entire file system is the tool here. And the actions, the functions that you can do, like open file, rename file, these are all various functions that you can do, right? That is the actions. Now, I told you that we will be looking at two different things, right? One is the action and another is the trigger. So trigger is little different. Trigger is something that happens from the application to the Composio dashboard. So it comes from the application, while the action goes from the Composio to the application, right? So that is the difference. So if I go to Github, that is one of the tool that is available, and under the Github you will see there are lots of triggers. And you can see the triggers are like commit event, issue added event, star added event. So these are all various events that the Github application will send it back to our Composio dashboard. So this can be configured. We will be discussing about configuring the triggers in the different discussion altogether. Our concentration is primarily going to be on the actions part, especially the actions part, which is done through local support, right? So what I mean by local execution, when I mean local execution, it means that you don't need to use an LLM to execute the tool. You are executing the tool as if it is a function. So for that, what we are going to do is, there are two ways. So you can first of all go to the tool set and you have to get the tool. So in our case, the action that we want to perform is file tool create file. This is what we want to perform, correct? So we need to get the tool into the tool set first. Okay, before we even start working on the file tool, you might be wondering, don't we need an authentication? In case of the file tool, you don't need an authentication because it is going to be local, right? So you don't need an authentication. We are going to create a file tool. We are going to create a file. So our intention is to create a file called as Composio test, right? So what I've done is, don't worry about the code that has been commented out here. That has been commented out when I was testing it. So you can actually uncomment it and you can execute it. And you can see what is the output that is coming out of the file open tool. But my intention is to show you the file create tool. That will be much more interesting for you to observe. And this file create tool is going to happen right in the current working directory. So the current working directory is going to be the cruise tools and all tools test. So this is where I am going to get the Composio test. So if you see here in this Composio area, you see that there is no any Composio test.py. Right, so let me go scroll down a bit, and now I am going to execute the Composio file tool direct. So once I am going to execute this, so I need to first of all source the library, and wait a second, I think it is Composio. Okay, it's crew env only. Crew env bin activate, and then I am going to execute this. Now the Composio library, the things that we installed is already in the environment. So now the code will execute. After the code executes, you will see that there is an additional one file. There will be logs that gets printed also, but there will be one additional file. So we will take a look at that in a second. This is happening. There is a delay that you are seeing right now. This is because the tool is still available inside the Composio dashboard, right? It's present there. It's not present in your local environment. You can see that the current working directory was located, and the tool, the file has been created, and the error is none. So that means I should have an extra file. So let us do an ls right now. And you will see that we have this file, right? Earlier we did not have this file. You can see that here, and now we have this file. So that is how the local execution of the tools work. And in order to execute locally, you need to use execute action. So that is the method that you need to use on the tool set. This is very, very important. You are not using it on the tools. You should not use it on the tools directly. It will not work. These tools are meant for sending it to the LLMs. But when you want to execute in the local area, you need to use toolset to directly execute. So now you might be wondering, Kamal, that means that this line number 8 is not useful at all. Yeah, it's not useful at all. The reason why I created this is that I initially got confused. So I also went ahead and got the tools, and then when I wanted to execute the tool set, then I realized, okay, you cannot directly execute using the tools, but you need to use the tool set directly. I believe that you have got some idea on how the tool execution works locally. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to look at how to create tools. At this moment, most of our work has been, working on the tools that is present inside the Composio database. What we are going to do right now is we are going to create custom tools. In order to create custom tools, there are two different ways. So one, just a minute, we are going to use custom Composio tool, and this custom Composio tool is going to be which is going to be also local, so we don't need any kind of application for this to work. So this tool will work on our local machine. So what this tool is going to do, this tool is going to simply tell the message that you are going to send it. It's a very simple tool, it's not going to be complex at all, right? And in order to create this tool, you need to follow this important syntax, and the syntax comes up to this area. So from line number 7 to line number 15, that is the entire syntax. Now let us explain the syntax one by one. First thing you need to know is that the action decorator is coming, it's importing from Composio_OpenAI. This is something that you need to observe, right? Second, the action decorator has a tool name given, and it also is taking a requires, meaning it actually looks for the libraries that it needs to import. Right? These are the two important parameters of the action decorator. Next comes the definition of your function. Most of these tools in across the agentic frameworks that you find is similar to how you write a fast API or a Flask API interfaces. Most of these agentic frameworks have a decorator, and below the decorator you will have a Python function. So that is how it works, and this Python function is what is going to execute whatever you are asking for, right? And this Python function has a parameter called message, which is of string type. You need to clearly mention the type of each of the parameters, and you need to also mention the output, the return parameter also, and which is a string. Next comes the important point. Here in the docstring, you have to first of all tell that what the tool will do. You have to be brief, at the same time give sufficient detail that what is the expected output, because the LLM is going to read this, or the agent is going to read this part. Second, you need to use this syntax, :param message. So this colon tells the internal system in Composio that whatever follows is going to be a parameter, and this parameter will be updated in the database accordingly. And then comes the return, which is going to be a greeting and which is going to be a formatted message. Each of the parameter and the return values are given sufficient description at the end itself. This syntax is mandatory. Without this, your tool will not work. Keep this in mind. Next, you see, after that it's a pretty simple Python function. So I'm importing cowsay. Cowsay is one of the modules that I will show you what it does. It actually shows a cow, and there is a message coming on top of it, and then you can give any kind of message to it. So you can call different types of animals. It's not just cow, you can call other animals also. Just do an exploration on cowsay module. You will find something interesting. Next, we have another one example. So in another one example, the same thing I have done, but this does not have any requirements. You see it's empty, right? And this is going to get the message length. And you can see the parameters is the message input, and the return is the message length, number of characters in message. The output, even though I am telling that the message len is going to be number of characters, but observe here, I am still telling the return is a string. So that means I need to return the value as string here. So next what we are going to do is we need to first of all get these tools for us to execute. One point I wanted to highlight here is that you cannot execute these tools locally. You can create these tools locally, but you have to execute it using the LLMs. If you try to use toolset.execution method that I showed earlier, it will not work because the tools are not properly getting recorded in the dashboard. There is some kind of a communication issue which I am trying to understand. As of now, you need to use the toolset and get the tools, and then you need to send the tools to the LLM and you need to get the response. So this is very similar to the first video that I showed how to handle tool calls. I think it's the second video. So here what we are doing is we are using first we will use the get message length. So this is the tool that we will use, and the output will be the length of the message, right? And moreover, if you see the coding comments that I have mentioned here, you can look at the response of the models also. In this way you will have a better understanding of what's going on, right? So let us execute this right now. So this is a custom Composio tool without any requirement of authentication. So I am going to say Python custom Composio tool, and I'm going to execute it, and you will get a number of characters that is going to come out from the LLM. And you will also see the variety. So you will see the number is 16. This is printed out, and you can also see the response that is received from the LLM. This is the response, message LLM is 16 and error is none, and the call is successful. So this is how the tool calls work. Understanding this is pretty important because let us go back. As I was telling, there are varieties of applications that you can work with, and all these applications have varieties of functions, and these functions are called using the tools, right? So next what you're going to do is we are going to work on the custom tools with authentication. So let us go back, and let me open the cruise flows, all tools, custom tools with auth. This is the example again that is present directly inside the dashboard, Composio dashboard documentation. You can take a look at there also. The point I wanted to make here is pretty simple. The imports process is all the same. There is no difference when it comes to the custom local tool and the custom authentication tool. The main difference is the action part, the parameter that you are sending into the action decorator. So you will be using the tool name equal to GitHub. The application name that you are going to attach this particular action, that is what you will have to mention in the tool name. Okay, and what this basically means is this tool name, this GitHub application will get a new action under its category inside the Composio dashboard. You don't need to think too much about this. The primary thing you need to be aware of is this execute request. So this execute request has to be part of the function that you are writing, because this is the request that does the process. So when you are going to send the tool name, the authentication must have already taken place. The authentication must have given the user to the tool when the Composio is when the Composio is using the tool, it should be already authenticated. So execute request has already got the authentication. So that's why it's called as a callable. These are all happening at the back end. You don't need to think too much about this. Main thing you need to remember is that you need to pass execute request. Next, the rest of the things are pretty same. It's same as what you saw in the Composio tool without authentication. There should be parameters, there should be return values, you should give the decorators properly, and then comes the return statement where you see I'm using the execute request as a function. So this acts as a function, and you can send the details here. So you can send multiple parameters of what exactly you want to do. In this case, I want to list the repositories of the owner, and the repository owner whom I am going to list is called Kamalabot. That's my repository that I am going to list. So once the tool has been created, it will get registered. Once you execute this code, it will get registered in the dashboard. I'll be showing the registration also in a couple of minutes. And then after you register, you have to again get the tools. You cannot directly work on it. So you need to get the list repositories tool by using this option. Okay. In case of the earlier earlier tool calls, you would have seen that in case of actions, we are calling the app name dot the action name. So let us go back a bit so that you can see what is happening. So here you see I am using the actions as the text area, right? And if you see here, I am using action dot file create tool, file tool create tool, correct? While if you look at the custom authentication GH tool, I am directly using the function name itself, list repositories. If you scroll up, this is the function name that I'm using. So what is happening here? There are multiple ways you can use get the tools and start working on it. Okay, at the end of the day, the tools, the get tools method is creating the tool schema that you are going to send it to the OpenAI for getting the tool call. That is what this get tools is doing. If you are not aware of this entire tool calling schema, what is exactly happening, I'll be attaching a Medium article where I explain this entire how the tool calling works, how the schema is getting created, all the nitty-gritty details in full in that Medium article. You can take a look at that. It will actually help you a lot. We are going to send the tool, and the LLM is going to first of all send the response with the tool call, and then we are going to handle the tool call response, right? So let us execute this code right now. I'm going to just show this only one example. The other example you can check it out by yourself. So custom auth gh tool 1.py. So this is what you are going to access, and all of these tools are working properly because I've already completed the authentication. If you are not aware of how the authentication works, take a look at my earlier videos. And here you can see the data has been returned with all the repositories that I have got. Right, these are the varieties of repositories, and by now you must be thinking, if I am going to get all the repositories like this as a list, can I do a lot more things with this list? Actually, yes, you can work on the request that you are getting from the repository, and you can also process it inside the list repositories function. It's a pure Python function. You can do what kind of processing, any kind of processing you want. The main thing is, you can see that here I have told it's a list of string output, right? So that's why I am getting a list of string outputs here. If I don't give that, then there will be an error. So first of all, Pyrite will not allow you to proceed, and second thing is the LLM also will throw an error telling that, okay, I am trying to do something, but the requirement is different. So that kind of errors will occur. So I believe that you guys have got some good idea on this in this video on how to create two different kinds of tools. The authentication based and non-authentication based tools. One is local and another is for applications that are outside your system. Keep one thing in mind, these applications are simply servers or other applications that are serving some kind of data to you, right? You need to look at it from that perspective, and these applications are called as tools inside Composio, and these tools have varieties of functions that can be executed, and that functions are called as actions. Finally, we also saw about the triggers. The triggers where the action that is done by the application and sent back to the Composio dashboard, or sent back to you if you are listening. So we'll be looking at triggers a little later. It is not something that you need to be really concerned about right now. You have to practice, most importantly, how to create simple tools. With that said, I would like to leave with the 4 words, that is, be curious, be curious. See you guys.